Hello there, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the amazing humans from the community world about their life journeys and learn from each other. And today we have a conversation with Brittney Aston, also known as Brittney Chantelle, a community manager with such a huge and diverse life and professional experience, from military service to sales and program management, from DJing to a music artist with over 2 million Spotify streams. And we got the moonroof open and we're rolling around. Hair put it down, you don't care anyhow. Ooh, and you love the sound. Ooh, love yourself, you deserve it now. That's exactly what's happening in my mind every time I see her name. So, hello, Brittney.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm super happy. That's exactly what's going on in my mind every time I see your name. And I see mostly your LinkedIn every time you post something. Like, you, first of all, you post great things, very insightful, and it's really interesting for me to read. And secondly, even before going to the post, I have this song in my mind. So my first question is, how did you come up with this song?
It's a great question. And thank you for tuning in. I came up with this song actually while driving, which I think a lot of my songs come to me while I'm driving. And I have to like voice record it on my phone. Um, it didn't come to me in the exact format that you hear it now, though.
Mhm.
I definitely kind of like thought about how cool would it be. I think it was summertime. I was driving in Pittsburgh, where I'm from, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for those of you who don't know. Um, and I remember thinking about how fun would it be to have somebody kind of like standing up through my moonroof while I'm driving, although very
Mm.
dangerous. And I think I may have like seen that from a recent music video or maybe a movie or something like that. And I was kind of just daydreaming about that and how awesome it would be. And then like I took it a step further and was like, what if it was like my partner? And like my partner is just like feeling herself, feeling themselves. I think I was single at the time, so that's why it wasn't. It was a daydream for sure. Um, and I came up with the initial part. We got the moonroof open and we rolling around. Hey, I put it down. You don't care anyhow. And I didn't have the ooh. I didn't have that yet. But I did have, kind of the basis of what the hook is. Um, and I also had the first portion of that verse, the intro verse, um, kind of laid out in my head as well. And I just kept singing it over and over again. And it's often what I do is I keep singing
Mhm.
it over and over again to try and see if I can like get some more lyrics or more structure to what I'm thinking of. Um, and I'll just turn my voice memos on my iPhone and just record. And I think I recorded like 9 different versions of it. Um, and then once I was ready to record the song, um, I, linked up with a producer and some really like just awesome, talented artists in Pittsburgh. And not only did they formulate the actual music that you're hearing in the
Mhm.
background, because I really wasn't thinking of that too much. I usually don't. Um, but they helped me with that, and then they also helped me um, get the fillers that I needed within the lyrics, so the ooh, and
Mm.
there was definitely like some lines that where I was just like, this needs something or this needs an extra word. And you still want to make it to make sense. But yeah, I had some help on that song with finishing it, and obviously it's a hit. Everyone, that's the song that, if someone does know my work, they usually know Moonroof. Um, it's the song that has the most listens right now. And it's a song that obviously it brings, I think, a lot of people joy, but it brings me a lot of joy to perform it live because um, it's just this light, airy song, and it's only like a minute and 47 seconds. So, it's like it's for those who need the instant gratification and the quick songs, if you get bored of songs really quickly and you're like next, next, I have ADHD, so I know what that's all about. But if it's something like that for you, I think it's a great song for that.
Me personally didn't have enough, so I had to listen it like 5 times to like, oh, now, okay, it
Yeah.
works. So, but I totally understand like this up to 2 minutes. I feel like the people right now have so small attention span,
Mhm.
and still, what do you think from your perspective? What is like, I always have this question on my mind. I saw like songs from 10 years ago, they were like for 5, 6 minutes, and currently they're getting shorter. So for you, what is the perfect length of the song?
Um, for me, I have tried to dissect. This is a great question. As an artist, I've tried to. I think my last album really speaks to this. I tried so hard to make songs that I thought people would want to listen to, and it really took me away from being a true artist because instead of creating what I wanted to create, how I wanted to create it, I I had these ideas and they were songs that I did want to create, similar to how I came up with Moonroof, usually driving in the car or sometimes in the shower. I come up with a lot of ideas in the shower. Um, but I took them and I said, okay, well, how could I make this a radio hit? Or
Mm-hmm.
how could I get their attention right off the bat and keep them there? And I started to look at it as this like, metrics, strategy, thing. And um, you know, there's layers to this. I didn't really
Mm-hmm.
promote that album much, but there's not that many listens on that album. And I think that uh, that comes from a little bit of a lack of um, generosity and like, being true and being real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that sonically it's a great album. It sounds beautiful, but I think that um, when we start to think about how long should a song be, or the structure of a song, oh, it should be, hook slash chorus, verse, hook slash chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. When we start thinking I think that when we start thinking too in depth of to what a song should be, we get away from the actual art of it. And I have really dissected this and have asked myself, should I make all of my songs this length on this next album or anything like that? And I think that the answer that I now have to that question is the song should be done when you're done saying what you have to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that was the case with Moonroof. I remember us very clearly, I remember us in the studio and we were recording Moonroof, and I was like, but there's not like this second verse. And we were kind of like, but doesn't need it, and I was like, well, I said all I have to say. I don't know. There's, at that point, if I'm trying to force, it goes back to forcing too.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm trying to force a second verse, that doesn't feel good and that doesn't feel genuine. And so yeah, long answer to your question, but I think that a song is done when you're done saying what you have to say.
I can very much like I'm not an artist for sure, but I can really much relate like on LinkedIn posting, because I see a lot of people doing, posts and like trying to show themselves out there. And it feels like many of those folks think that they has to have like a huge text.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nah, it won't be counted. But at the end of the day, I really like how you phrase it. Like when it's enough, it's enough. Like when you said what you wanted to say, yeah, I can really feel it. But still, for the Moonroof, for me, it was not enough. I need more. Yeah,
Yeah.
please give me more.
I've
But
I've talked many times about maybe doing a remix or something like that, and seeing where that goes, but nothing is in the works as of now. But
so you told that some of your songs coming up from writing and some of your songs coming up from singing in the shower. Still, what wins, riding or showering?
Shower. Every
Why
time.
so?
I think that there is this, I have a lot of, I think, self-confidence issues with my voice.
Mhm.
And I compare myself a lot to other artists, especially like R&B artists. There's some really talented artists that I um, have been like, I guess I grew up around. It's not really grew up around because I didn't meet these folks until I was, 22, 23, but neither here nor there. I feel like there is like some very talented R&B musicians in Pittsburgh that I was working with or working around. And not only that, but I guess like I could expand that into the larger artists that we hear every day on the radio, the more popular people, whatever. Um, and I think I do a lot of comparing. And so when I'm in the shower, a lot of people kind of make the joke that when you can't sing, you should record your music in the shower. And like there's even like some jokes about like SoundCloud rappers and how SoundCloud rappers aren't legitimate and they'll record themselves in the shower or in the bathroom. And I'm not by any means like a sound engineer, and I really actually don't know much about sound waves and reverb and all this stuff. But I do know that it's pretty common that you sound great in the shower. You sound great in the bathroom. There's this like echo. There's like this reverb, and I think that there's just this kind of like letting go of like I don't care if my neighbor hears me. I don't think they can, but maybe they can. I don't really care. I feel more confident in the shower. So I feel like all of the pressure to sound good is kind of gone. And so when that pressure is gone, I think that really like opens up the door for creativity and to just have an open mind of what do I want to say and what do I want to share right now? What am I feeling? I think that's the biggest thing. What am I feeling right now? Because anything that I come up with in the shower specifically, or in the car. Again, no one can hear me when I'm driving in the car. There's just, I can really tap in. Anything that I've come up with in the shower has been very vulnerable, very emotional. Some things, I don't even know if I'll ever record them and release them because they're just so raw and real, and they might just be things that I keep to myself. But yeah, I think that's really the reason.
You told that you are comparing yourself to many other artists. And I feel like, I have this inner feeling that there always will be somebody better than us. And how do you deal with understanding that there are a lot of great people that, I don't know, maybe I might not be enough? Like, how do you have these inner conversations with yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I've moved towards the thought process that we can all be great and that there's room for all of us to be great.
Yeah.
Because I think that there's this kind of, sometimes there's this crabs in a bucket mentality that kind of happens, especially in the artist world. But we really could make that argument for many different fields. We could make that argument for the community professionals field, and that there's only so many slots. And if I am not better than this person, or if I'm not doing these really cool, unique music videos, or if I'm not dressing a certain way or something like that, then I'm not going to, be cool enough or sound great enough or, whatever it may be in order to reach those slots. But these slots that we like think of, like, okay, there's, 100,000 slots to be a professional artist, and there's 7 million of us trying to reach those 100,000 slots. Like, where did the slots come from? Like, no one ever said that there's only that many, spots. And I think that it's really just coming down to asking myself, what am I making up? What am I making up in my head? And also too, there are some really awesome artists who they themselves have said, I can't sing, like, I'm not a good singer, but they embrace that, and they're real and they're raw within their music. And when you go to their concerts, it's not about, wow, this person is taking my breath away or giving me chills with their vocal range. It's about, I can relate to these lyrics, or these lyrics are funny, they bring me joy. These lyrics have provided healing for me, or something like that. And so I think that I also remember that as well, that I don't need to be the best singer. I don't need to have this wild, crazy vocal range, or even know what vibrato is, or what this is, or what that is. It's like, it's again, it's getting back to just being real, being me, and embracing my true self. And also too, there are things that I could do to enhance my vocal, capabilities. I could go see a vocal coach or a voice teacher or something like that. And so kind of reminding myself that if that's something that I actually really, really worried about, like truly down to my core, I would do something about it. I would go see a vocal coach. I would go to a voice teacher. And I have a couple times, but I don't do it consistently. And I think that that's because it doesn't actually truly ring true to my core. I think I'd rather work on accepting my voice for what it is, and knowing that I can be just as great of an artist as SZA, or as, the next leading, R&B artist, or something like that. And I also think that it's interesting that I don't sing R&B, but I often compare myself to R&B singers. And I think it's because it's one of my favorite genres. And I think oftentimes the vocal range is just so amazing and beautiful. And it does give me chills, and it does take my breath away when I go to those concerts. And I think that when I'm at those concerts, I'm like, oh, like I want to do that for a crowd. But thinking about, how could I do that for a crowd in a different way? Yeah.
And, like, my favorites are just like Eminem, Linkin Park, Fort Minor, and all those. And, there is no way I could have ever heard about you unless we met in the community world, and unless you shared your song on LinkedIn. And then I went to it and I love it. So I wonder, how do you feel about this serendipity?
I love it. I am all about serendipity. I'm all about, I really like trust in the universe. I think that's a common saying that we've been hearing a lot recently. And I believe the universe has my back. I believe that, we meet people for a reason. We cross paths for a reason. And I know that sometimes it's difficult to believe that, especially when you may have met somebody with ill intentions, or you may have been in a relationship that was toxic or something like that. I think it's really difficult to believe in that. And I think that, there's a fine line with saying it, but I do believe that we cross paths for a reason, and what that reason may be like an immediate, like, whoa, this is why, or it may be 2, 3 years, 5 years down the road, who knows? Or maybe you may not even ever really figure it out. But I do think that, we cross paths for a reason.
I remember this fun story I read somewhere, like a person passed away, then went to heaven, and etc., and met God, like, okay, God, so I'm here right now, so please tell me, what was the reason of my life? Like, what was the goal of my life? And God was like, okay, do you remember this year when there was a huge conference and there were so many amazing people and this conference impacted the world? Person, yeah, I remember. Yeah, what's next? And like, do you remember when you prepared your speech and you were going to a stage and person, yes, I remember. Yeah, please go on. And then do you remember this person asked you to light them a cigarette? They go, yeah, I remember. Oh, that was your goal of your life. So And I feel like we never know what really happens, but I totally agree that everything happened for a reason. And sometimes I really like to trace back, like when I came somewhere, like, okay, how did it started? Like, how did it start? Like, what was what was the catalyst for it? And I really like that you said universe, and I wonder, from your perspective, God and universe, is it the same?
For me, it is. Yeah, for me, it is. I grew up agnostic, which is necessarily the belief that it isn't necessarily the belief that nothing exists, but it's the belief that there is something. My parents often would say, "Yeah, we don't know what's up there. Probably, I don't know, something. There's a there's a bigger power, but we don't know what it is. We're not going to put a name to it, or a face to it." And my parents, I'm really grateful for them giving me the religious freedom that they gave me, because I know not many people are in that position, and are forced into believing something that they don't necessarily align with. But I do believe that my parents did a really awesome job with that. And they were like, "Hey, yeah, there's 3 churches in town. If you want to go, you can, walk there." Whatever. But I do believe that for me, they're the same. They're interchangeable. Anytime I read something about God and I change God to universe, it really aligns with me. And I think that there's a lot to say within that. And I think that, I think that that's been kind of a realization over the last 2, maybe 3 years for me.
I feel like it's pretty much the same, and I really like how you phrased it. Then, if you turn the word God to universe, basically it remains the same. Yeah, it's like something like something out there, like some kind of energy. And as you started talking about your parents, so let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
Yeah. So my mom and dad, well, I was raised in a very small town outside of Pittsburgh. And that's actually the town that my dad grew up in. It's called Oakdale, Pennsylvania. Very small town, very not diverse. At least when I was growing up. I think that it's getting a little bit better. But I'm biracial. My dad is Black. My mother is white. She's German. And she actually met my dad in Germany because he was in the United States Army and he was stationed in Germany. And they met there. And they ended up moving to New York. This was like after my brothers were born. So I have 2 twin brothers. They're 6 years older than me. So the timeline kind of goes, they meet in Germany. My dad's next duty station is Colorado. That's when my brothers are born. And then I think that there was some point in time where he had to go back to Germany. And then when they came back, we were in New York. They were in New York. And then I was born in New York City, Staten Island, to be specific, which some people would argue is not New York City, but I beg to differ. That's me always trying to be proud from like being born in New York City, but like I didn't grow up there at all. Like I was born and then pretty much like within a year, I think, within a year, I was probably 1 year old. I'm trying to think of the timeline, but I think that very shortly after me being born, they moved to Oakdale. So that's where I grew up. And it was a very, I think, just weird town to grow up in, especially being biracial. And then eventually, in my late teens, realizing that I was queer, it was like even harder because I felt very, very isolated. It was, I'm not gonna like paint it as like this super rough childhood, but there were definitely some difficulties and some traumas in relation to me being biracial and me being queer.
What did your parents say to you when you came up?
When I came out, you said?
Yeah, exactly. I
okay.
lose on my English words sometimes. God,
no, it's okay. It's okay. My parents were very supportive. And I'm very, again, very grateful for that. My coming out was by any means not a way that I wanted to come out as. I actually was in basic training, Army basic training, and I had found out that my high school girlfriend cheated on me while I was at basic training. And it was July 4th. And I don't know how they do it now, but then we did not have our cell phones. They took our cell phones away. And mind you, this was 2011. So there were no smartphones. We
Hmm.
had flip phones, old school. You could get on Facebook if you dial it in, but it barely worked. Um, and I remember it was July 4th, and they gave us our phones for like 7 minutes. And I called my girlfriend first, and she didn't answer. I called her again, she didn't answer. I called my best friend and was like, yo, she's not answering. And my best friend had already knew what happened, and she told me. And then I called my dad, and mind you, like this is within minutes because we only had like I think maybe 10.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was like 7. And I was crying, and he was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, Dad, you know my friend, da da da. And he was like, yeah. I was like, well, we're more than friends. We were dating, and um I just found out, that she cheated on me. And he is so funny. Like when I say my dad is so funny, he is so funny. He said, can I swear on
Yeah,
here?
sure.
He said, God damn it. He said, me and your mother just went to her graduation party and gave her $50. I'm so mad now. And it was like really funny because
Mm,
like it was like this comedic relief that I needed, like of him not even worrying that I was in a relationship
yeah.
with, someone who isn't a man. And like,
Hmm.
and his immediate reaction was just like, damn it, I just gave her $50. Um, it was really funny, but he ended up going on to say that he loves me no matter what, and that all that he cares about is that I'm happy, and that whoever I'm with is making me happy, and you know, um, not disrespecting me or anything like that. And then my mom, I think, was at work at the time, and he asked me, he said, do you want me to tell your mom or do you want to tell her yourself? And I was like, you can tell her because I don't know when I'm going to get a phone call next. Um, and he was like, okay. And, um, I think my mom had a couple questions when I got home, but after answering those questions, she was also, I mean, she was always accepting, but I think she just had some clarifying questions. So after that, everything was great, and I'm really, lucky that that's how that turned out.
Yeah, it's a really great and fun story.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you shared what your dad answered you, I was like, oh wow, it's so great. It's so amazing to have such great parents, such supportive parents who
Hmm.
like, accept your choices.
Yeah.
Still, I wonder, have you ever had anything your parents didn't accept?
Yeah. um, there's a couple things I think that my parents often come around um, to accepting. I played football with boys when I was in elementary school, and they let me do that. And then once I got to middle school, which I know that many countries' education systems are different. So once I hit kind of 8 years old, maybe 9 years old, my parents didn't want me to play football anymore.
Hmm.
On the boys' team, there were no teams for girls at the time. Um, and this is full contact football, pads and everything, American football.
Yeah.
And they had told me that the boys are getting too big, and they were worried about me getting hurt. And so they didn't let me play. And I think every year I always ask them, can I play football this year? And through high school. And there were times where our high school football coach, he's a very popular high school football coach. And he would ask me, when you come in to play for me, when you come in to play for me. And I had told him that my parents, feel like I'm gonna get hurt and da 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 da. He was like, I'll talk to them. I'll talk to them. But he was like, we can put you in a position where you won't get hurt. Like we could put you as punter, a kicker. I bet you could kick. So he was always hyping me up, and my parents stayed very firm on their no with that, and it caused like a lot of honestly pain for me at that time. I mean, it was something that I really, really wanted to do and felt passionate about, and at that time I was like, in good health, and I ended up getting to play women's professional football in my junior and senior year of college, so 2013 to 2015, for a team called the Pittsburgh Passion. We were at 1 year we were in the Women's Football Association League, and then the other year we were in the Independent Women's Football Association League, or IWFL, Independent Women's, football. There's just too many acronyms. And we won the championship both years. But I also was, both of those years, I was really starting to feel, well, more so my senior year, I was getting a lot of pain. And it was definitely like directly connected to my military service. And I just wasn't performing to the ability that I wanted to perform at. I felt very slow. My knees were hurting. My wrists were hurting. And so I didn't really get much playing time, as much playing time as I wanted to. And I don't feel like I did the best that I could have done. So there's still some pain around that as well, where it's like, that was like, any time, that was my time to shine in the sport that I wanted to play and really didn't get to. So, and then shortly after that, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. So that was kind of the start of everything there.
I have this question. How fibromyalgia influenced your life?
It has changed my life drastically. Fibromyalgia is something that it affects the entire body, and it's different for everyone who has fibromyalgia. There's people that have a really hard time, just getting into the shower with fibromyalgia. And I do have those days where my body is really stiff and it hurts really bad. But I mean, it's really changed a lot of things. I mean, it cost me to quit football, which I think, again, was in the stars. It's fine. I think I have moved through that, that's happened. It is what it is. But, just, I mean, anything physical, going out dancing, which is something that I also really did enjoy. I mean, anything physical, really. I mean, it really has changed how I need to think about physical activity. If my friends are like, hey, we're going for a bike ride, I have to have an electric bike and an assisted bike. And even then, carrying the bike up and down the stairs, it's like, that's really hard for me. And so it is, I think a lot of people call fibromyalgia an invisible disability. And it really is, because I think when people look at me, I'm 30 years old and I've had fibromyalgia since, diagnosed since 2017, but I think 2016 was the real start of it. But, I've had fibromyalgia now for several years, and people would look at me, and even including doctors would look at me and say, you're so young, what do you mean you're in this much pain? So it's really hard sometimes to be believed that I'm in the pain that I'm in. I mean, I have gone years pushing through it. In the military, I had to push through it the last couple of years that I was in, because you just have to do what you do when you're on a contract. So it has changed things a lot for me, and I have avoided taking medications for it, just because I really tried to think about there's symptoms, and the symptoms are warning signs. And if I
Mhm.
cover up the symptoms, what does that actually do? I
Yeah.
want to get down to the bottom of why I have fibromyalgia. And um, for me personally, I don't believe that pain medication or, you know, muscle relaxers or anything like that is going to get down to the bottom of the thing. So, of the situation. So I choose not to take medication. Um, and that also is another, um, difficulty for me, because some people, they don't understand, especially doctors, well, we have this medication we're offering you. Why don't you take it? You must not
Yeah.
be if you're not taking the medication. So yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster.
Did you get to the bottom?
Um, I believe, and some doctors in studies agree with this as well, that fibromyalgia is caused by suppressed emotions, or like a severe traumatic event. I think also it could be, several traumatic events kind of adding up. Um, and I think that the military was really traumatic for me. I was never deployed, but I had like several instances of sexual assault. I also believe that they actually have changed their training model, their basic training model drastically since I've been in. But
Hmm.
there's not just within basic training, but I think throughout the military, there's a lot of emotional abuse. And it's kind of swept under the rug as like normal or like what you should expect from the military. It's kind of, you're kind of desensitized to it being an issue. But I read it for what it was, and I saw a lot of bad leadership, a lot of um, leading from fear, um, and I just didn't agree with it. I didn't agree with the way that we were treated. I didn't agree with the way that we were talked to. Um, in the way that leaders, a lot of leaders, um, tried to gain subordination and tried to gain followers. I didn't agree with it. So I think at my core, I'm a very sensitive person. I'm very empathetic. And I think that it was a lot for my nervous system. And I think
Yeah.
that I think that my fibromyalgia is a result of all of those pain points.
How music in your life helps you to deal with it?
It helps me a lot. I mean, like music, um, it is an emotional release. I can write down, word for word what I want to say directly, or I can kind of use metaphors and make it more, poetic or less direct. And so it feels really good to be able to say what I'm feeling in that way. And then also too, music is a community and it brings people together. Um, it helps people heal. It helps, like I said, bring people joy. Um, I think it helps other people, realize the things that they have also went through. Um, I've had people who actually had this woman come up to me after a performance. I have an album that's a pretty heavy album. It's about my military experience,
Mhm.
called The Golden Opportunity. Very, very heavy album. I barely perform it unless if someone requests me to perform it. Um, and I performed it, and this woman, I could hear her while I was ending the song. I could hear her crying. And she approached me after I got off stage and I sat down. And she said that she was a lieutenant colonel, I believe in the Air Force. And she said, "You just made me realize that I experienced sexual assault in
Mm.
the military. And I think that I've been suppressing this and holding this for so many years." And she was like, I like can't thank you enough for like bringing this to the light for me. And it's moments like that where it's like, whoa, like how much music can do. Um, and that brings me, it doesn't obviously doesn't bring me joy that someone else has hurt in the same way that I've hurt, but it does like bring a sense of relief that um, music is a way of healing. Music is, and by healing, recognizing that something happened. Okay, now I recognize this. Now I need to work through it.
You know, when Chester Bennington out of Linkin Park passed, my friend told me this phrase, and it sticked with me like for years. And he told, his music saved so many people, but couldn't save him.
Mm, yeah.
And at this moment, like I had conversations with people, and they asked me like, why Linkin Park? And I was like, I don't know, it's still one of my favorite bands, and currently right now I'm understanding the lyrics. I'm going through lyrics. I still have those emotions. But
Hmm.
when I was a teenager, it helped me. I really, it kept me sane,
Yep.
basically.
Yep.
And yeah, I totally get. And I have goosebumps when
Hmm.
you were saying this, because yeah, I feel like music is one of the greatest powerful things in the world. And yeah, wow.
Yeah. I agree. I agree.
What was your favorite Nickelodeon cartoon?
Oh, what a great question. Um, Hands down, Hey Arnold. Hey
How
Arnold.
come?
I think there were I didn't even realize it when I was younger and I was watching it. But I recently, I'd say maybe 9, 10 months ago, I rewatched Hey Arnold, not all of it, but a good majority. And I was like, oh my God, there are so many lessons within
Hmm.
every single episode. Sometimes there's 3 or 4 lessons within one episode,
Wow.
um, about telling the truth, about how, like honesty is the best policy, um, conflict, like I have this issue with this person and it's like they hurt my feelings, and um, I should tell them so that they know and so that they have a chance to apologize and we can make amends and, be good again, and um, just doing the right thing when no one's watching. Like there's just so many good lessons throughout Hey Arnold. And I think that combined with the jazz that they had on it, the jazz music was amazing. Um, yeah, I really do think it was the most perfect cartoon.
After you said that, I really want to review it, because I remember I was watching it, but I have no idea what it was about. But
Mm,
now, yeah, I'll give
yeah.
it a second chance. How did you decide to review it?
I believe the last time I watched it, it was on Hulu, if you have Hulu. It may also be on Amazon Prime.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I'm from Ukraine. I can get everything anywhere. I know how those different websites work, and yeah, so it's a
Fair
fun
enough.
it's a fun thing. But I sometimes I'm talking to people and like, have you seen this movie? And they're like, oh, it's on some subscription service. I do not have a subscription. I was like, really? And it's so
You know,
fun.
we're gonna have
Yeah.
to have a conversation about that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know why, but maybe it's because of, Ukraine was not that, um people didn't have enough money to buy everything. But
Mm,
I feel like almost every piece of software I've ever had was somehow cracked, somehow, like.
oh,
And only when I was working in the bank, they had really legitimate software, because they had to buy it, otherwise they could be sued. But
right,
as persons with like, nah, never.
right.
And yeah, it's really interesting, and I will really rewatch it. And also, I'm curious, have you seen South Park?
Yes, yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I haven't seen it in so long, and when I was watching it, I was actually pretty young. I probably shouldn't have been watching it. But I have 2 older brothers that are 6 years older than me, so I got away with a lot of things. Um, how do I feel about it? I don't know. It's literally been so long since I have seen it. And I've heard that it's changed a lot because I think they're still making episodes, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I mean, I think that there were definitely funny moments from what I remember. I think that there were kind of, uh, similar to the other, similar to like Family Guy or
Hmm.
American
Hmm.
Dad or anything like that. It does bring like that satire and kind of the sarcastic, um, viewpoints of what's happening specifically in America. It's kind of like I think there's a lot of times where it's making fun of America. Um, and so, I think that there's some moments that are laughable.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, I feel like some people may find those moments offensive,
Mm,
but in general, yeah, it's like, laughing on imperfections and understanding that that is how it is. We
yeah.
can shut up about it, we can laugh of it, or we can make some changes. So it's up to people. And yeah, I'm curious if you will have time to rewatch it. I really ask you to share your thoughts with me. So please do it.
Yeah,
And
I will. I will.
what is the backstory of the first tattoo you've ever made?
Oh wow. Um, the first tattoo that I ever got was um a tattoo on my side and on the side of my ribs. And I still to this day don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, and I've never looked it up to find out. But it's an ambergram. So it's a word that says one thing one way, and then when you flip it upside down, it says another thing. I
Hmm.
think they can also say the same thing both ways. And I was like, I laugh about this now because I was 19 when I got my first tattoo. Um, and it was this like obsession. Like I was like, ambergrams are so cool, like so awesome that you can design a word to say one thing one way and the other thing the other. And so I had paid this ambergram artist to create my first tattoo. So
Hmm.
he drew it, and then I took it to a tattoo artist to get it tattooed. And it says seasons one way, and then when you flip it over, it says change. So seasons change.
Hmm.
And for me, it was, a reminder that like obviously, you could be in bad times and seasons change. Things will get better eventually. And then also on the flip side, which I think a lot of people don't say when they say seasons change, is that things could be really good, but they also can get bad again.
Hmm.
And like when they are really good, like be grateful because they could get bad. And I never want to say that in a way of fear of like, like I think sometimes we might have this go to where we have, okay, we got something good and we like can't believe it's true. This is too good to be true. Or I think some people say waiting for the other shoe to drop. If they get all of these good things in their life, they get married and they find a really nice house that they love and they buy the house and everything's really seamless. Sometimes people
Hmm.
will say like things are going too good right now. Like what's what is about to happen that's bad. And I try not to lead with that mindset of like, okay, things are good right now, so something bad is going to happen, but
Yeah.
more so things are good right now and I want to be grateful for all of these things. And I outwardly thank the universe. um like when I met my partner, I like literally was like, thank you, universe, appreciate you. When I found my apartment, when um it just when I got a job, like all these different things, I always just say, thank you, universe, appreciate you for looking out.
And I feel like it works
Mm-hmm.
because me myself, I recently started to talk to a higher power,
Mm-hmm.
and it it helps to, kind of like, at least for me, it helps to say that you are not alone. And
Mm-hmm.
if something bad happens, as you've told, it's easier to seasons changes, and
Yeah.
it's easier to overcome bad things when you are not alone, when you have, somebody behind you.
Mm-hmm.
if in comparison, when you are all alone, without any people around you and without any higher powers, let's say, around you.
Mm-hmm.
And you told about that people are like, oh, it's too good, it can be. And it reminded me right away, love yourself, you deserve
Mm-hmm.
it now.
Yep,
So
exactly.
it's everywhere. And yeah, it's really great. And I still wonder, you wrote this amazing phrase that I found on, I guess it was Twitter. I'm proud of my unlearning, learning, and overall growth.
Mhm.
So I wonder, how did you learn to unlearn things?
Yeah, I mean, great question. I think that anytime we face opposition of our views or values, someone questions them, like you say, I believe red is the best color. Someone says, no, actually green is. And if we can in that moment, instead of getting defensive, ask questions to understand and say, oh, why do you think that? Oh, how long have you felt that way? Oh,
Mhm.
okay. And we can kind of get other people's perspective, then our viewpoint or our values or our opinions can change and shift. And I think that that is just one of the biggest things that I've had to learn and that I've unlearned and learned, um, is that give a person a chance, like, to explain and try not to assume, try not to take things personally. And I know that that can be really difficult, especially when someone has a very far out, wild opinion. I'll say it that way. Um, but I have noticed that anytime I have like remained calm and asked questions instead of assuming and trying to understand, and it goes to listening to understand rather listening to respond, it has always worked out for me. And I think that even in the moments where I agree to disagree with someone, like, okay, well, you told me why green is your favorite color. I don't necessarily agree. I still think red is my favorite color. But, or I still, feel that way. But I can at least hear them out. And I think that even then, I still learn something. And I think that that's the main way that I have learned to unlearn.
Have you ever been that way, or you changed at some moment of your life?
I think that there are definitely times, especially early teens, early 20s, where I was like very determined to um, make other people believe what I believe.
Hmm.
What I believe is right. I'm on the right side of things. I'm on the right side of social justice. I'm on the right side of, this restaurant is the best. Like I definitely think that there were times, and I think that it's not all the time. It wasn't all the time. I always thought that I was right, but I do think that there are definitely times where I, went tooth and nail to defend what I believed. Um, and I think like that's that comes from a myriad of factors. Like I said, I have two older brothers that are six years older than me, and they're twins. And we fought a lot growing up. So I think there is a part of me that I grew up having to be defensive
Hmm.
about anything and everything. And yeah, I think that, as I have grown older, I have recognized that just because you disagree with someone about something, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fight.
Do you still have fights with your brothers right now?
Not really, no. We're thankfully we've moved on from that. I think we have disagreements for sure.
Hmm.
We have disagreements, but I wouldn't say that they're fights.
How did you feel when your grandmother called you to tell you she saw you on TV?
Oh wow, that was so long ago. um, it was cool. It was really awesome. I think I I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think when I was growing up, I always like had this vision that I would be a performer. Um,
Mm.
from a very young age. Also going back to Nickelodeon during all that, the show All That. Like I would like sing, like I would like dance on my mom and dad's bed while watching it on the TV, and I would like have a mic in my hand, and I would always picture that that bed was actually a stage.
Mm.
And I've always pictured myself as that. And so I think like when things like that happen, where my grandmother calls me and says, "I saw you on TV," it's this like it's such a difficult feeling to describe. It's very surreal. It's very I think sometimes I'm really quick um dismiss my accomplishments as accomplishments.
Hmm.
I'm kind of like, oh yeah, haha, cool, thank you. Um, people, I don't think I have a hard time accepting compliments. I think that I have a hard time with like really feeling them um, sometimes. And I think that that goes into layers of self-confidence and doubt and, questioning, um, my abilities and things like that. So it was a mixture of feelings when she called me and told me that. I was kind of like, yeah, it was no big deal. um, but yeah, it was really cool.
You are telling me your story that you always wanted to be this artistic kind of person, and I just can't understand why did you decide to join military?
Such a great question. I think it's a mixture of um, brainwashing,
Mm.
um, acting out of fear, and, a lot of people ask me, like, did you join the military just because you come from a military family? Yes and no. No one in my family said you need to join the military. If you don't join the military, we're going to be disappointed in you. Because I know that some
Hmm.
people come from those families.
Yeah.
Um, it wasn't necessarily that. I think that there were a lot of positive stories about the military that I grew up hearing, um, and not as many negative ones. Um, but I was really fearful of being in debt, and I really wanted to go to college. And I think, we're thinking I'm a junior in high school. I'm 17 years old in 2010.
Hmm.
And this is when people are starting to make their decisions of what college they're going to. And there was a lot of pressure then to go to college. And I think that that has lessened now. I've heard high school students tell me that their teachers like tell them, do whatever you want, go to a trade school, be a mechanic, be a chef, whatever. You don't need to go to college. So I think it's a much different vibe right now in American high schools. But then it was like, you need to figure out what college you're going to, and we're doing this exercise in English class because this is going to prepare you for college. And it was just college, 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 university, university, university. That's all that they talked about.
Mm.
And not many people from my family went to college. And I was like, I want to do this. I need to do this. And how can I do this without being in debt? So it was a lot of that. And then simultaneously, I was in a program in high school called JROTC, which is Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. And
Mm.
it was a Marine program within the high school. And I joined my freshman year. And I was really, really good at it. And I broke a lot of records like really quickly. And usually they have a senior as like the student commander. Usually you have to be a senior, you have to be in 12th grade. But I was breaking all these records and had shown my leadership style and everything like that. And they actually gave me that responsibility when I was a junior. So it was like unheard of that a junior would be the student commander. So I was really good at it.
Mm.
And I said, okay, I'm really good at military stuff with rose-colored glasses on, because our JRTC in high school is much different from military real world. I'm really good at this. My family has told me positive things. I come from a military family. I can't be in debt. I want to go to college. and then, some brainwashing mixed throughout there. So that's really why I chose to do it. I think also there was like a lot of lies that I was told from my recruiter, different jobs that I could have in the military, which technically are true. You can be a veterinarian, you can work with pets in the military, you can be a firefighter in the military. But what they don't tell you is that getting those jobs is very, very rare. And you need to prove throughout time almost, depending upon what job you're talking about, but you need to prove throughout time that that's what you want to do and where you want to be to get there. And it takes years sometimes to get there. So I think that there were some lies as well sprinkled in there, and that's why I chose to join the military.
Yeah, it's a long story, and it was a huge part of your life. So it's really very interesting. And Brittney, I really wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions.
All right.
Ginger tea or coffee?
Ooh, ginger tea.
Ride a motorcycle or play a DJ set?
Ooh, you did research on me. That's not fair. Ride a motorcycle.
What are your favorite color and song?
Favorite color is maroon. Favorite song is Molasses by Hiatus Coyote.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
Ooh, I think I would want to teleport.
Who do you learn from in the community world? Just name one person.
Ooh, that is so hard. Name one person?
Just one.
Just one? I'm learning from like 10 right now. You know what? I'm gonna say you because of how much you post, and your posts are really awesome, and your podcast is really awesome. So
this is a little bit of a cheating, but okay. So name two people who I should definitely reach out to have this conversation with.
Ooh, I would say my coworkers, Renee and Anna.
Got it. And is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
Cookies, gingerbread, or chocolate chip?
Let me guess. It's a super hard question, because you kind of chose ginger tea. It's kind of a little bit of a clue, but it may be a twist here. So let's go with chocolate chips.
You are correct.
Yay! Wow. Yeah. Brittney, thank you very much for this conversation. I really enjoyed following you on LinkedIn, listening to your music, and I just had this huge curiosity of, well, who is this person inside? Like, what is Brittney's human side? And now I can't say that I know you at all in general, like fully, but from what I've heard today, you are such a nice and open and empathetic and just kind and great person that I'm really, happy that we had this conversation. And you made me feel very comfortable talking to you, and thank you very much for that.
Of course. Thank you. And thank you for having me. When you reached out, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. I was so excited. So thank you for reaching out, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and see you in the community world.
All right. Yep. See ya.